going to the tomb now, it's pretty traditional and customary, and people are go in and pay their respects. I mean, I'm not talking about during the pandemic, but the last, say, 40 years. But um, Mansari, back in the early days, there were only a few people going to Baba's tomb. And just to kind of give you an idea of how informal it was back then, Danny, why don't you tell the story of what about Mansari? Mansari was the tomb keeper, one of the tomb keepers, one of the women Mandali.
Okay, well, I guess it starts with Monty asking, can anybody paint some stones on the shutters from the inside? And no one spoke up to that. No one, so I said to Monty afterwards, I said, Jeff is quite an artist, and it might be something he would like to do. And I don't know if we consulted him about it at all. It was a given that Monty asked Jeff, and were you forthcoming right away and said, yes, I'd love to do it, or just, oh, I don't know?
Yeah, no, I did actually. Hard to refuse.
Yeah, well, it's so anyway, but I wanted to be there too. And so I volunteered to clean up, and I came by with a little rag, and if there was anything splattered, I would wipe that up. And we had the tomb to ourselves most of the time. A good part of the day we had that to us. And we'd go outside and just take a little breather, and we'd maybe, we used to be competitive walking on our hands between the two of us. And so we'd do that, just to get a break. And finally, Mansari saw us one day, and she said, boys, would you go into Baba's tomb walking on your hands and bow down? And we didn't think about it, I don't think. I can't remember that.
No, well, I mean, actually, Denny, she heard that we had done gymnastics in junior high, so we were able to walk all over the place, go up and down steps and everything. We were really good at it. So Mansari heard this, so she wanted us to take darshan in the tomb on our hands of Baba. So yeah, go ahead.
So from there, we walked in, over the threshold on our hands, and walked up to the stone there, and right where everybody bows down, and we did kind of like a push down and a push back up without, getting on our feet again. And then after we'd both done that, then we turned around and walked out of the tomb on our hands. And there was Mansari just outside laughing. She thought that was so funny.
She was there making sure no one came up the hill. No, none of the Easterners came up the hill to witness this blasphemous behavior. But that's how informal and it was at one time. But of course, it can't stay that way. But it was lovely that it was so informal that you could be yourself at the tomb back in those days.
How old were you then?
What's that?
How old were you then?
We were about maybe 26 or something.
Yeah.
24.
Well, 26. I think you're right, Jeff.
Yeah.
Who turned who on to Baba?
Oh, Jeff found out about Baba while he was in college. And we made a vow in our junior year of college that we would let the other person know when we found out. But Jeff wouldn't say a word to me.
Well, if we found, Denny felt that Jesus had come back. So if either of us found out who he was, to contact the other.
I get it.
Yeah,
So when did you finally tell him?
this was back in, I don't know, I heard of Bob in January of 68. When did I tell you, Denny? He was
Well, I
in
was
the
in the
Army.
army, so you couldn't reach me anyplace. And I was in Ethiopia at that time. And so it was after I came back, it was up to me to find Jeff.
Yeah, if you can you put it over there? Sure.
And finally, I called Jeff's mother, who lived up in Vancouver, British Columbia, and she said, "Oh, he doesn't have a phone." And I said, "Well, do you know anybody that knows him that has a phone?" And Elizabeth said, "Yes." He called Danny. No, who was that, Jeff, that I called?
Might have been Danny Romer or Danny Schwartzberg.
No, was it a Charles something?
Huh.
Anyway, I called, got on the bus on my way to New York, and I got off there, and I had a little wait before I got on a plane, and I called this fellow's house, and Jeff answers the phone.
I just
And-
happened to be down in the city for a couple of days from Schenectady. And I just happened to be at the phone. So we met underneath Times Square, about 3 floors down at a little hamburger joint. And that's when I told him about Baba and gave him a Baba card, a little Baba card.
And don't worry, be happy. Pour your drop into the ocean, become the ocean, which in reality you are.
Yep.
And I took that off to Europe and tried to figure out, is this really true? I mean, I expected, I guess, that Jesus would have his old name and look just like him. But wow. So I never met up with the fella I was supposed to. So I had just a good month of traveling around Europe, trying to figure out, is it true? Is it real? And I had no way of contacting Jeff, to find out more until I flew back to the United States, and I called, I want to say Danny Romer, but I called his house again to see if he knew anything, if Jeff would be coming down soon. And once again, Jeff answered the phone.
Yeah. Michael Levine, that was it.
Michael Levine, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what happens after whatever 50 years of being with Baba,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
What
went to
happens
India
as you get
together.
shorter?
What's that?
What happens as you get shorter?
Yeah, he can't even fit on the camera anymore.
Here, now I'm checking in on you.
He's shrinking by the day.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I thought of all of you in the lagoon cabin this morning, except Ursula, because I didn't know that she would be coming on. There's Ann Ross.
Oh.
Yep. Ann Ross, have you got one of your mother's poems that you can just bring out right now and read? Her mother met Baba in 1931 when Baba was at Harmon on Hudson, and she wrote many beautiful poems. And I don't know if she can.
Actually, I have the book right here.
Okay, how about reading one for us?
Okay.
She was just about 21 at the time, I think.
23.
23, uh-huh.
And we're actually going to have a celebration of her life on December 4th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the name again?
Well, her mother's name was Josephine Ross. And her father was Kenneth Ross. You see, he was from England. You see him playing the bagpipes for Baba as he went over to East Chaliacombe to that ashram there. Okay, Ann, you got something.
Okay. This one's called He Whom I Love Forever. Out of millions and millions of people, there is one whom I love the best, who in goodness and wisdom and beauty towers above the rest. One face out of millions of faces, one smile that responds to mine, one heart that is filled with compassion and beating with love divine. Though prison walls were about me and chains bound down my feet, yet would my heart go soaring, that beautiful one to greet. Though my soul were fettered and shackled with darkest sin and pain, yet would my heart leap upward to praise my Lord again. He never can really leave me, no matter where he may roam, for my thoughts shall go forth like beacons, guiding the wanderer home. Though thousands of miles are between us, yet are we never apart, for he whom I love forever is imprisoned here in my heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you remember meeting Baba? Can you share the experience? You remember it?
He was 13.
Yeah, Ann?
Talking to me?
Yeah, can you share your meeting with Baba?
Share my meeting with Baba?
Yeah, just kind of what you were thinking beforehand and what the experience was like. Just your first meeting with Baba.
Well, I'll start out by saying that my mother stayed with him at Harmon, and she had this wonderful experience with Baba. She was just 23 years old, and she immediately recognized him for who he is, the Christ, she said. And she got to stay with him for a whole month, and we used to hear about that a lot when we were children, how she would take his tray up to his room, and she would glimpse him through the door, and down when she was downstairs, it was like living with God upstairs on the second floor. So as children, I think that we knew about Baba from the time we were very little, because both parents had met him. So we kind of, I think we took it for granted that someday we would meet Baba. And I think in my mind that I expected to have kind of an exhaustive experience like my mother had. You know, I just kind of, you know, I guess I just took it for granted or something. So we, as a family, my two sisters, myself, and my parents were to meet Baba in New York City in 1952 after he had been to the center, I think, in California also. But of course, he had that terrible accident in May of 1952, and so it was very iffy if we were going to be able to keep our appointment with him, because the doctors all were telling him not to keep these appointments because he was still in a lot of pain. But then they decided that they would go through with the appointment. So we lived about 150 miles away from New York City, and we had a very old car, not much money, but we managed to get to New York City in that old car, driving 40 miles an hour. When we left in the middle of the night, I remember that. And I remember walking into the room, and Baba was sitting on like a couch or a divan, and his arm and leg were in a cast. And I think I sensed that he was in a lot of pain. I think I sensed his pain. I didn't sense like so many other people did the love that came from him. I didn't sense that. I sensed the pain. But the thing that stays in my mind the most about that meeting is my father's reaction. He hadn't seen Baba since the 30s, and my mother hadn't seen him since then either. But my father was very stern British man, never showed his emotions, very serious kind of person. And when he caught a glimpse of Baba, he just broke down in the most racking sobbing, just heart-wrenching. And I was in such shock at seeing my father behave like that, that I was just kind of focused on him and not paying much attention to Baba at all, you know, being in the room with the avatar, but not really aware of it. And I remember reading somewhere that Baba often did that with people. He would have you focus on something while he was working on you. So I have to think that even though I wasn't aware of it at the time, he was doing a lot of work on the inside. And it took a lot of years for it to kind of grow a little bit. And I don't remember approaching Baba. I don't remember being close to him. I just remember my father and his reaction. And I did get to see him again in 1956. And that time it was a lot different. It was a lot, Baba was feeling good. That time I really felt the love in the room. So I got to kind of make up for that first initial time of seeing him. But we did get our time with the avatar, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Anyway, that's my story.
Yeah, well, we're going to get more, we're going to draw more out, but hey, I've got, here, I'm going to read this poem by, I don't know if you would call it a poem, but Ann Ross's sister. She met Baba in what, 1956 or 1952, her younger sister. Ann?
Are you talking about Rosie?
Yeah.
Rosie met Baba in 1952 and she didn't see him again in 56. That was her only time.
Okay. So she was 7. And so this is what she wrote about meeting Baba. Meeting Baba by Rosie Richards. I was 7. Do I remember? Oh yes, forever. All time ceased. I walked into a great circle of light and complete protection. No one, no thing, no sound, only the essence and the voice of the silent one. How could that be? What did he say? Where was I? Enclosed in light where no harm could penetrate. No harm. I was lifted up. The circle was beyond where I could sense. Great love light blinded me with the enormity of this happening. I was 7. Do I now understand how incredible this event was on eternity's clock? Have problems vanished? No. Have challenges eluded me? No. Do I cry? Yes. Tears of joy, fear, love, hope for the less sensitive humanity. Have I been hurt? Yes, deeply by many people. Am I vulnerable? Oh yes. Vulnerable to the pain my physically and mentally fragile family have endured. Vulnerable to the horror of man harming man and to anger and unkindness in our world. Why have I been so blessed? I have this knowing. I have love. I am so small. He is so great. What can I give? The only gift worth sharing, that in all the turmoil, misunderstandings, confusions, mistakes, wars, tumult, there is hope. There is love. How can I be so brazen? I have a responsibility because I glimpsed God, the Lord Meher. He is real. I sat on the lap of God. Whew.
That was a beautiful poem.
Yeah, truly. That was a little 7-year-old meeting Baba for the first time in 1952.
So Jeff,
Wow.
what happened to those twins who met Baba? I mean, who Baba came to them when they were in their dollhouse?
Oh, they both have passed on.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
Oh.
another whole story in itself. Yeah. But I think we should probably have our moment of silence, right? Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Ooh. Ah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I think most everybody knows the format, and Angela is going to choose from amongst the people, some of these obscure people, get them out of their twilight zone. And she'll ask you if you'd like to read, and you can read, or you can feel free to pass. And at the end of each section that we read, people can chime in and share things, ask questions, whatever. It's all up. And so over the next stretch, this is one of the main topics that come up and is central to Baba's teachings, you might say. Baba says that this world is an illusion, a dream, and we need to become detached from it. Now, Baba quoted Hafiz. Hafiz said, 1,000 times I've ascertained and found it to be true that the world and the affairs of the world are nothing into nothing. So the question is, how are we as Baba lovers to relate to this dream? It's an illusion there. And if we're too detached, we come off as being cold and indifferent. And we all know what it is to become too attached. So what does Baba say? He says for us to be wholehearted in all that we do. After all, he didn't say that we couldn't express love in the dream, love in this illusory world. And when we do what we do for Baba out of love, we are naturally remain detached. And I've always found, and I gather from the Mandali, that in cultivating wholeheartedness, there is a built-in detachment. Others in the world may take the object of our wholeheartedness away, but they can't take away our wholeheartedness. And that's the beautiful thing. So even though it's painful to lose things, we can turn our wholeheartedness to something else. So there is that built-in detachment. And but most of you have met the Mandali, and the Mandali, they received us with such open-heartedness, and they were so generous and helpful and inclusive, and they didn't hold back. And yet they didn't become detached to us. They didn't become attached to us. They just loved us. And I have this kind of picture of Darwin and Baba in the early morning, chopping up vegetable. This is just a metaphor, but chopping up vegetables and putting all sorts of goodies into this Teflon skillet. And then Darwin would go out in the day and just pass out these goodies, this delicious food to everybody. And at the end of the day, he would just turn the skillet upside down because nothing would stick, and that Darwin kind of referred to it as a loving detachment. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind as we go on over the next sections of this book. Yeah.
So we're on page 15 of the book. That's the bottom of page 8 of the PDF. The section called Integrity of Purpose.
Integrity of purpose. Jai Baba. But Meher Baba does not expect that we are suddenly going to relinquish everything. It is a manner of growth. Baba is not talking about dilettante discipleship, but 100% dedicated discipleship and complete devotion. What is important is integrity of purpose. This means being true to the ideal one is trying to attain. In other words, not to have integrity of purpose would mean being willing to set aside one's ideal to pursue things having a lesser value. Once we know the ideal that Baba lays out for us, it becomes our ideal, and we try to be true to it. We discover where we can be more faithful in following our ideal as Baba shows us how it should be done. This 100% dedication comes about not through simply deciding that tomorrow or every Tuesday we are going to work on getting God realization. It comes about when we have matured in consciousness to such an extent that pursuing our beloved ideal becomes a necessity for us.
Hi, so this is a very high ideal. I don't believe I have reached that. However, I get little hints that I have this necessity. I know I have a necessity for Baba. And recently what's been happening is I find myself hearing a poem or reading something or hearing a song, and the tears just flow, and I have no idea why or wherefore. It's just, but they are clearly from my heart, and it lets me know that yes, I need this, and this is the only thing I need. This is my necessity of purpose.
Beautiful. Very touching. I know more and more people are feeling they're grateful, so grateful to Baba in all these kind of inexplainable ways, like you're sharing. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Stuart.
It's a little aside maybe, but I'm just struck with, I get this sense of great but humble spiritual authority in Darwin in writing these things. You know, it's like this guy's not just commenting about something, but he knows this from the depths of his being.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting a guided tour into the heart, into the depths of the heart. Yeah.
And Cindy.
when Jeff was reading that, I started to get a little bit agitated, like, oh, this is hard. This might be hard. And whatever it is, like not the dilettante discipleship, 100% dedicated to discipleship and complete devotion. That feels like a lot, but then immediately flashed into me the Baba calendar for this month and what my integrity of purpose is. And at the very end, the quote from Lord Mayher is, belief, trust, and faith are all illusory phenomenon, if not based on conviction through personal experience. So don't trouble to believe in ignorance, and also do not bother about believing in me. Be prepared to believe in yourself, capital self, of being able to long for the truth, capital truth. Then you will know truth in its pure, infinite simplicity. And when I think about 100% discipleship, I think it is believing in myself that I long for truth. Like I might not be experiencing it in every moment, but I know that the foundation of my being is longing for capital T truth. And so I might not experience it. I might falter and weaknesses, all of that, but that I can then just take a deep breath and say, oh yeah, with Baba's grace, I 100% dedicated discipleship and complete devotion to longing for truth. So I wanted to share that. Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Cindy.
And Peter.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Hi, everybody. Just a couple comments and something I'm confused about. When Jeff made the comment about that we have the ability to either not compromise or we had a power of choice, what came to my mind is, although it's dark, is in the book Man's Search for Meaning. One thing that is a very prominent point that's made is despite the atrocities that happened, I take it that Viktor Frankl had developed the ability to not have his attitude affected, or at least he knew that he had that ability. And I think of Gandhi too. And on the other note, when I look at this passage and I see ideal, one thing that gets confusing to me is Baba led one way. And I've heard people say, Baba saying, don't try to do as I do as I say, but follow the Mandali as their example. And when I look at what the Mandali did, I see them talking about proper sleep, proper food, proper this, proper that. However, how often could they get a proper meal? How often could they get proper sleep? How often could they do anything so properly? They followed orders and they had to be like juggernauts getting what they did. And years ago, I applied to Maharishi University of Management that talked about idealism and ideal way of life. In many ways, I shoot for idealisms with the way I eat. I have my lovely spinach soup in front of me for the mineralization. However, there's so many places I so drop the ball. And I like how Darwin Shaw talks about try. Sometimes I think in some circles it would be called a cop-out. On the other hand, I like the word try because how many times do we try and do something? Like I see people talk about, oh yeah, I just gave up lust. Like it's a piece of cake, where other people, it's something where you constantly fall down, get back up, constantly fall down, get back up. But one thing I'm confused about is how the Mandali, if they're the bar, and they, in many respects, could not follow the ideal, I just see the conflict there that I don't understand. How could we get the ideal when the Mandali couldn't even reach the ideal? And I just want to say, I remember seeing a part in Lord Mayher where they described Erich and some of the other Mandali going on a must hunt. And they talked about how for 5 days they went without food and sleep, or just a little bit. And I said, wow, that's hell week of Navy SEAL training, where they get almost no sleep. They get 4 hours of sleep for 5 days and almost no food. So I'm conflicted between the concept of idealism in what the Mandali had to go through. I'll pass with that. Thanks.
Yeah. Good. Yep. Good question. And someone will be able to answer that for you. But there are other hands who may be ahead. But we won't forget that, Peter. We'll come back to that.
And Elizabeth?
Yes, so I actually was thinking of something early on and I just didn't say anything. The first thing that came to me was the idea of truth. And I've just been finding over the past 4 years the building and building and building and building of the necessity of truth expressed everywhere throughout the world in every aspect. And it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And a few days ago, I said, we've got to have truth. Truth sayers have to speak out. I mean, it was just, I won't say what happened after that, but something good happened. But anyway, I just think that we're being forced to look at truth in different ways in all aspects of life. And to me, that is the passionate ideal. I mean, I agree with what Cindy is saying. I don't know who has 100% dedication. I think you aspire toward that. And I don't know the answer to any of Peter's questions, but I love the way his mind works in these things. But my guess is the Mandali were following Baba's orders and they took precedent over their individual wants, but maybe somebody else has another idea.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Beautiful.
Yeah, and Gabriela.
I'm kind of, a lot of things have been said, but just where I was when I clicked that was again, experientially, when I was young and I first came onto the path to God, it was so passionate, so intense, so absolute. I had, I'd jump off a balcony. I was just like crazy, really kind of crazy, but I totally was all about God. And I think my analysis of that is that everything from the past lives just kind of showed up at that time and made themselves known. And that's the degree to which I was dedicated, and I felt the truth of that. And as I get older and I come to Baba calmed me down. God, Baba has made me see that, like I just said earlier about the tears, it's like when you dip a candle and you take the string and you put it in the wax and take it out and then put it in the wax and take it out. So I continue by keeping good company, by asking the right questions, by singing the right songs, by putting my attention on God, by remembering to pray, by remembering to meditate. The dipping process happens slowly, quietly, and in time, it becomes a light. It's very
Beautiful.
different than my earlier, I've grown.
Lovely, lovely. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I like the metaphor.
And Leica?
Yes, was it Peter that was saying something about the Mandali being the example or something? Is that Peter?
Yeah, Peter, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, I don't know where you read that or heard that, but that wasn't my experience at all. And I knew quite a few of them pretty intimately. And each one was so incredibly different from the other one. And I remember being young and looking at them and going, I don't get this. I don't understand the way. And what finally made sense to me was Baba saying about his Mandali, that they are parts of his body. They are like parts of his body. they have such a special relationship with the avatar, and they're all very different, just as a toe is different from a finger, or the brain is different from the heart, or everything had a different function, and they were very different people. And the thing that brought them all together was love for Baba. And each one loved them in a very individual way, and each one had their own demons that they had to overcome to be able to serve him. And so I don't look to them as examples, although certainly of how to be, because there was no how to be there. It's just an affirmation for me of that I have my own path with Baba, and my own demons or things in the way of my loving Baba as he should be loved. And there are so many gifts within each of the Mandali and their lives and their experiences that, you know, you can relate to or not relate to at all. But that the main thing was that it was all emanating from Baba. To me, I mean, they were like parts of his body, just like he said. And so when they would go without food for 5 days, it wasn't because they were some superhuman thing or that was a spiritual thing to do. It was because Baba wanted a must, and this guy was the one who was on the trail, and Baba was fueling that person to find that must. And I've had experiences in my own life when I feel that, well, particularly when I had to take care of my dying mother, I mean, there was nowhere in me that was prepared for that at all. And early on in that experience, I just had to have him take me over body, mind, and soul, and to be able to get through that. And I liken that to, you know, the situation, Peter, that you were talking about with the musts. And I just think if we love Baba and we try to be true to our own journey with him, that he'll take care of everything. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Leica. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said there, and I may have a comment later. Yeah.
All right, Heidi.
Hi, this is a great conversation, and I just felt like maybe it was a good idea to look up the word integrity, because sometimes, you know, I think I'm on purpose or on point, and I'm maybe egotistically driven too much. And so looking up words helps, but integrity, this was really good. And I feel like perhaps the Baba helped the Mandali as he helps us just have this idea of integrity, the feeling of it. So it says a lot of definitions. It says the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness, the state of being whole and undivided. That's a good one. The condition of being unified, unimpaired, or sound in construction. Internal consistency. So I think what I want to say about that is maybe all we can really do is have this integrity of our purpose and what Baba wants us to do and fulfill. And when we slack a little bit or come down, we can always transform that experience with integrity of purpose and get back on the train. I think Darwin knew that because he helped us understand our uniqueness and the fact that we were God, really, we were Baba. We you know, we're these little individual selves, Baba as us. And so there is clear integrity in that, but we can always get back on the train and start over with Baba. He gives us that kind of blessing and grace. And I want to thank this group for helping me stay integrous and on the train. Because that's about all we can do. Sometimes we are human, and we do have to go through our sanskaric journey, whether it's from a past life that comes up, and I've been getting that quite a bit lately, and it's torture. But I'm meeting it head on, or whether we have to just face our own individual situation and transform it somehow into good. So thank you all.
Yeah. So true, Heidi. Beautiful. And from New Jersey, too, at that.
Soon to be from Florida.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's much better. And Laurice?
Hi everyone, Jai Baba. I am going to share something that I feel that I think is kind of reflects on some of what Leica said. That I think it's really important that we not compare ourselves to anyone. I think Baba has, I mean, even when he was like handing out like food directions, they weren't for everybody. They were, you know, don't eat eggplant was for one person, you know, and I think his relationships with us is so individual, and the directions we get are so individual. And when I'm disconnected, I can say Baba's name, I can read Baba literature, I can come to Effort and Grace. You know, I think most of us have dry spells at different times, and to be gentle with ourselves through those dry spells. And then there's other times where I feel passionately, and I kind of, maybe the reason why I was drawn to Baba was I had been through this amazing passionate phase of seeking, and he showed up. But at the same time, if I compare, you know, there's that whole compare and despair, like there's no way I can live up. I mean, as they said, you all could never be Mandali, you know, like the stuff that they went through, I'm a weakling, and I don't want to compare myself to them. And I do believe it's working through them. Like some of the stories that really thrilled me were like, where he was telling, what's the dancer's name? Margaret, to throw the cat out. And she didn't want to throw the cat out in the rain. But then he said, whose cat is it anyway? And she threw it out in the rain, and it was totally connected to D-Day. And, you know, the invasion of Normandy, and you know, and the whole, I mean, the code words and everything, and I can't say it all correctly, but, and then like throwing all this water on Chatti Baba, and it had to do with Paris burning. And, you know, like we don't know how much, you know, like work, I do believe the work was done through the Mandali, and the work is being done through us. And we don't know what that is. You know, it could be just carrying, like smiling at somebody, you know, or carrying that Baba energy. You know, occasionally I'll give a Baba card to somebody, or occasionally I'll be able to talk to someone about Baba, but a lot of times no. But I don't have to understand it. It could be, I don't know, I could be like the signal point that, you know, Baba is reaching some other people in my 17-mile radius to come to him that I'll never know about. I have no idea how Baba's using me. A lot of it's probably veiled. So I just feel it's all very individual. And even like our Baba stories, they're all so unique, and that's what we're supposed to share with each other. So I think it's really just, it's our own journey with Baba. And when we share together, and we've been down here, and one of the things I said to Terry about being on the center is that even, you know, 6-8 feet away, we're sharing Baba stories. You know, everyone's unique Baba stuff, and that's what's so beautiful. And that not to compare anybody's journey, but just to be inspired by each other's journey. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful.
And Anthony?
Wow, everybody's had such great sharings here that what I was going to say initially after Peter shared, it's like each person that would go, it would shift it. So I'm trying to see now what's, you know, what part of it to share, because it's changed a bunch here. I feel like I see all the different sides of it here, and they're all so valid that the comparison can be detrimental, but at the same time, I think it can be a natural, healthy thing for people to kind of look to others a little bit for mentorship. And I know I've done that throughout my entire spiritual path. And it wasn't so much a comparison, but it was just kind of seeing, hey, you know, what's working for you, and just listening. And you know, and then certain people, I'd maybe take a couple things they were doing that seemed to make sense, and then other ones that didn't resonate, I wouldn't do those. And over time, I feel like I was able to take a lot of the best of what different people were doing that I felt really worked good for me. As far as just the way some of the Mandali lived, which I don't feel like I even know the answer to that question, what that's like. I know, being an Ayurvedic practitioner and a registered nurse, Ayurveda to me is, it's one of the volumes of the Vedas. So it's that spiritual knowledge out of that time. And Ayurveda was meant to really complement somebody on a spiritual path, to take the best care of yourself you can while you're seeking self-realization. And it's all about self-care. I mean, those sages and those rishis back then that wrote that, it was all about taking the most immaculate, loving care of yourself possible while you're on the path to God. And I know I've personally taken that approach just because it helps to balance life so much, all these wonderful self-care practices. And I know there have been people along the road with, you know, reading, you know, some of Yogananda's material from years ago that, yeah, it seems like these certain gurus wouldn't allow them to be able to live such a life. And I remember I asked Mickey Singer from Temple of the Universe about that one time, and he had mentioned, and again, this is just his opinion, he's like, yes, when certain spiritual personalities get to a certain point in development, they're so inundated with the spiritual energy that a lot of the physical laws don't apply to them anymore. And that's how a lot of these beings can go without eating, without sleeping, because they're running off the cosmic current. And then I remember Mickey said, you know, until you get to that point, go ahead and follow all the self-care and all the common sense stuff. And you know, maybe if one day you have the current pouring through you, you'll be able to experiment with not sleeping and not eating. But until then, you know, the common sense really helps. So for whatever it's worth, that's where my mind went over the course of these wonderful sharings.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Very good, Anthony. Yeah.
And Meher Prasad.
Yeah, on the Mandali, I heard Jack Small saying this once, that they, you know, each of the Mandali felt really worthless. This is what they told him. Initially, he thought that this was just a way of making him, you know, feel better. So he thought that, you know, Iruch, when he kicked a old shoe that was lying there, and he said that he felt that he was less worth than that old shoe. So Jack said that he, you know, Iruch probably said that as a way for making Jack feel better. But over time, Jack realized that every single one of the Mandali felt that way actually because they really were feeling that way, not to make him, you know, feel better. And then he said this quote, which was really very, you know, impactful. He said that, I think it was Saint Teresa of Avila or someone who said that when you have a vessel of water and you look at it normally, it looks all clear. But when you hold it against the sun, you'll see all the imperfections in the water, in the vessel, in the glass. They all, you know, show up very clearly. And then Jack said that this is how the Mandali felt. It is because they felt so close to Baba. They were only seeing those that worthlessness because they were seeing Baba's greatness, and you know, basically seeing them against this backdrop of Baba's greatness, and that's how they felt it. I just wanted to, I just remembered
Yeah.
Jack's sharing that.
Excellent. Wow. We've gotten just the first section here. We're still going at it. Yeah.
This is fabulous. And Thea, you're up.
Yeah, I was going to, I can't remember now. I've gotten people mixed up as to who I was responding to who, but the first comment of I haven't ever had the sense that like we should try to emulate the Mandali, but they are like there's a model. Like I spent a while in Japan, and there's a model for teachers there that is we translate sensei to a teacher, but it just means the one who went before. It doesn't mean that they're in some way that they can go farther, that they are in any way, you know, more valuable or less valuable. It's just that they went before. And I think that, like, yeah, having somebody to guide, having someone to, you know, say, oh, well, yeah, I remember when I tripped over that tree root or like struggled up that wall is, you know, here's what I got at it. But it ultimately, like, the tree root you stumble over is your tree root. So it's going to be different. And the wall you climb is going to be your wall. So it's going to be different. So there's that necessity to, you know, it's like a coach, right? They can't run that race for you. They can't tell you. So if you try and run just like how they ran the race back in 1950, whatever, you're not going to win your race because you're in your own race. And so I think that listening to them is useful, and listening to that is useful, but it's all to point you to that inward connection. It's all to point you to that being with Baba now, right? And then in terms of the like having to eat and whatnot as we ascend through the plains that Anthony was talking about, there's that classic phrase from Buddhism of before enlightenment you chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment you chop wood and carry water. In the end, that is the steps through. I think I can't remember if this was in the discourses or elsewhere. Like I said at the start of this, I'm rubbish at the citations in spite of having a graduate degree. But I remember the gist well enough. And there's this idea that even the avatar has the ego and has the false self. Even the perfect masters do, and it's how they exist here. Like without that, they no longer are on this plane. So in order to do the work, they have to have the ego, though the avatar of the perfect masters is the perfect ego for that place in that moment and them. And so I think like there's a certain amount of like acceptance that has to come with like okay, the Mandali are closer to that light, and they've got maybe a slightly less perfect ego for their moment than the avatar did, but they have one still, and we have one still, and it's just part of it's like it's the buy-in for the game, right? Like we're all here in the game right now, and the buy-in is you have to have an ego to be here. So yeah.
Great. You gotta have a high-class ego, though.
Ante up. And Stuart?
It was great discussion. I first went to India when I was 21 and had no idea what to expect at all. Had the grace of being with just about all the Mandali. But when I first went there, I thought I was going to find these like clearly elevated people, almost walking above the ground, but not quite. And then I quickly met Padre, and he blew that out of the water. He was such a grounded, firmly formed personality, regular guy. And I came to see that the Mandali were all like archetypes of different personalities, all really beautifully different, fully formed, and all underneath everything devoted to Baba, just devoted to Baba in their different ways. And another thing I noticed was that if you were talking with one of them, every single one of them focused on you like you were the only person in the world, every one of them. And I could just feel this purity and clarity in all of them in that way, even though they all had their firm personalities at the same time.
Yeah, so true, I would say, Stu. That's what I found.
And Janet.
Yeah, I was just reminded at the end of Marwan's book, there's this little section about Baba and food, and I don't know how applicable it is, but I just really enjoyed it. Anyway, it starts out talking about a teasing that was happening between Nariman and Meherji were teasing Patil, I don't know how you say that, but his name. But anyway, because he was vegetarian and egging him on to eat non-vegetarian food. But anyway, so later on, Baba comes into the hall. He asks what was going on. And so Baba brought this up. And then here's what Marwan says. After Erich had narrated what had been said about food, Baba replied, "No one sitting here is so very important that God is standing behind your chair watching what you are eating." Those were his very words. I don't know. I thought that was
beautiful. Yeah, no, that I remember that.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of things just to mention here, but we probably should move on to the next section. But one is that even though the Mandali felt unworthy, they didn't have low self-esteem. It's hard to imagine. They didn't feel bad about themselves. They were able to function and be ready to do whatever Baba wanted. They weren't pulled down. So I never felt they had low self-esteem as a result of feeling a little bit small next to the source of all light, you might say. And also kind of responding to what Peter said, the Mandali led these lives, but impossible lives, but they said Baba pulled them along. It was only because of Baba's physical presence that dragged them through these impossible periods with very little food and sleep, and you probably know that Erich would say he would be absolutely tired driving Baba on these long distances, and Baba would take the wheel and Erich would just lean his head on Baba's shoulder for about 10 seconds and come back again, and he had had a whole night's sleep. You know, so things like that were happening. And the other thing is what Peter, was talking about. Now, there's these ideals that Darwin talks about that to live by, but the aim is not to perfect your ideal, because eventually the ideal, which has its value in moving you along, has to be given up in favor of naturalness. So naturalness is the last stage of the path. So it's not like, Erich once said to me, the accumulation of virtue is not the goal. The perfection is not the goal, to be natural. So, but ideals are helpful up to a certain point, but then we have to move toward being our natural self, which is more like more childlike rather than some dedicated spiritual warrior, you might say. So anyway, that's responding to what Peter said. Okay, let's go on. Here.
All right, great. So page 16, freedom through love and love through freedom.
Freedom through love and love through freedom. Love is the medium of exchange between the master and the disciple. So we have to develop our love. Love of God incarnate, love of the Christ. As we make efforts to love him, he helps us in his own way, in ways we cannot imagine. His love, a river of truth, power, light, and strength, inundates us, and far more powerful than any illusion. It erodes away our addiction to the creation. We need to develop one-pointed focus on him through love and self-surrender. As we love the Master more and love God more, a latent sense within us opens up. And through our own intuition and insight, we can see that what we need not be limited. Meher Baba says that we are not the limited ego, the finite little creature we think we are. In reality, we are the soul, we are spirit. The soul is always free, always eternal. What Baba is saying is that we are timeless and we can experience the fact of our being spirit here and now. We do not have to wait until we drop the body. As spirit, we are above reincarnations and personalities, gain and loss, and good and evil. We are meant to discover this now, to live at the level of the spirit, not at the level of the body, which is merely the storefront of our business, an instrument for being conscious at the gross level. We are a part of God, every one of us. It is toward this consciousness that the Master is leading us, so that we will get free of the wheel of reincarnation. The Master wants to share his consciousness with us. That is his gift to us. In 1956, Meher Baba said to us, "Love Baba with all your heart." When we are free from being dominated and buffeted by our sanskaras, we can love him with all our heart.
Ooh, beautiful. Any response or questions?
Alan, go ahead.
Back to the soul and the spirit. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for reading that, Douglas, because as I was sitting here and listening to you, I thought I could have heard Darwin's voice. So I appreciate that. I thought I heard some whispers, just the way that the inflections and even the sound of your voice. So I appreciate the way you read that, and
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, what can I say? This is I really appreciate this from Darwin at this point about the here and now. J Bob.
Yeah.
We should have Douglas read more often.
Yeah, he's channeling Darwin again.
I wish.
Any questions before we move on? A lot of the questions and a lot of things that come up as we go along through the book too. So if it doesn't come up now, it certainly will come up again.
Hello, Jeff.
Yeah, is Marion?
This is Anne Marie.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I haven't seen you in so many years. You know, I don't live in Myrtle Beach anymore. But I just wanted to say that this is so remarkable and refreshing. And when I heard him read, it just uplifted my spirit so much. And I just wanted to thank you and him both.
Yeah. Well, good. Just tune in. We're all here.
Yeah, thank you.
We're all here because we're not all there yet. Yeah. Okay.
And
So,
Douglas?
I just wanted to comment on the spirit, our conversation a few weeks ago on soul and spirit. And here it is again showing up. In this case, Darwin is using them interchangeably, it sounds to me. Not that we need to go off into that again, but that just struck me.
yeah, Baba gives, I mean, if you want to be like really precise, Baba gives the the difference between soul and spirit. I mean, they're in essence the same, but the soul is sovereign and independent. But when it interfaces with creation, it's called the spirit. So the spirit is kind of the middleman, so to speak, between us and the soul. But that gets, you know, I mean, these are words and everything, but that's how Baba defines it. But they're really one and the same.
Yeah.
And Cindy?
When Douglas was reading the third paragraph in this, as spirit, we're above reincarnations and personalities, gain and loss, and good and evil. We are meant to discover this now, to live at the level of the spirit, not at the level of the body, which is merely a storefront for our business, an instrument for being conscious at the gross level. I heard the radiant health from last week, the forum last week, we were talking about the sentence and exploring the Baba saying when the body yields to the claims of the spirit, it is instrumental in bringing the kingdom of heaven down on earth. And I felt that singing to me as part of what that means for the body to yield to the claims of the spirit to bring the kingdom of heaven down on earth. And even the integrity of purpose, like that would be a claim of our spirit, like to be in that state. So anyhow, I thought that was answering or another reflection on the answer to that question, not question, but that statement from Baba.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Darwin used to say the personality self is just a storefront for the soul. But we make the storefront, if we're not careful, make it all important. Yeah. Okay. Shall we go on to the veil, our veil making machine?
Chapter 4, page 17.
Our veil making machine. Limitation comes into existence owing to ego-centered desires and self-will. Possessiveness in all its forms leads to a life of limitation. Mayor Baba. We are always surrounded by a luminous sea, a sea of light, of love, of bliss, the unity underlying all personalities and all things in the universe is God. God is in everything, and everything is God. No matter what we think we are seeking or what our sanskaras or conditioned impressions impel us to seek, we are really seeking to merge with this luminous, all-pervading sea of God and to experience eternal abiding fulfillment. In other words, what we are really seeking is the happiness of union with God.
Any questions? Does anything bring that, does that bring up something in you? I know Darwin used to say that everyone, you look on people as potential seekers of God, not just people that are aimless and have nowhere to go and just addicted to worldly life, but we are all potential seekers of that divine part of ourselves, whether we know it or not. So let's go on.
All right, next section. Alan, care to read?
Sure. Total loss is gain. Our illusory life is a vacant dream, and Meher Baba has explained that drawing closer to God is the only endeavor that has real value. The general consensus, however, is that happiness lies in fulfilling our desires and in accentuating the self through possessions and achievements, regardless of the fact that this only creates more desires, more entanglements, and more bondage. On the involutionary path, the spiritual path, we undergo a refining, awakening process in which we discard elements of the self and sublimate all of our energies so that they can be used to fuel our love for God and propel the self toward Him. Therefore, spiritual advancement is not further development of consciousness, a process of acquiring something, or an achievement for the ego. Spiritual advancement is emancipation from the bondage of sanskaras. It involves disentangling oneself from the false and, importantly, inviting the real into our being, opening to the truth within. This is in contrast to the psychological work of trying to get rid of our painful sanskaric patterns in order to create a pleasant experience in illusion. In other words, trying perhaps unwittingly to harmonize with our sanskars. I believe that as spiritual aspirants, our concentration should be on loving God and merging with Him, and the predominant process we are engaged in is not self-realization, but complete self-effacement, which is both total annihilation and complete merging of the personality self into God.
Ooh.
It's awesome.
Yeah, this is an extraordinarily concentrated and consecrated group of words, and I'm going to say something, and it's partly coming, maybe all coming from my ego. So Baba is saying, forget trying to become more conscious. Emancipation from the sanskaras, that is what will please Baba. Emancipation from the bondage of the sanskaras. So over the summer, I took a course called Nonviolent Compassionate Communication. Beautiful course in learning how to respond to whoever speaks to you with empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion. The reason I mention that course is just to give you a context. The whole course is saying the person who you're in front of speaking to you, I might add, or you speaking to someone, they're usually coming from a need. They're asking for something. So often, I, in my own life, I think like just about everybody here, we've been so conditioned, education, profession, and on, all the things that money can buy, except happiness and emancipation from the samskaras. So as we have this conversation, I'm asking if we can really, 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 not that any of us can even talk about this.
Oh, no.
How can you talk about emancipation from the samskaras? How can you talk about emancipation from the samskaras? It's like, in any case, I'm just saying, can we talk about this from a real personal point of view? Because so much of what I do is coming from need. So much of what I do could be coming from the needs of my wife, my daughter, my grandkids. The whole trip here in the material Western world is about need, fulfilling needs. So I'm just wondering, as we try to deal with this or get some kind of a feeling sense of how to work with that couple of paragraphs, I think there's a tremendous amount of need that dominates life. And how do you work with all of those dominating needs and deal with this to get closer to Baba and God? I'm asking the question because I'm struggling with that for a long time.
Good question. Yeah, some hands have come up, and if they don't, if they're saying something that's not in response, we'll come back to your question.
Elizabeth?
Well, actually, it's similar. What struck me in these paragraphs is the contrast between spiritual advancement being the, quote, emancipation from the bondage of sanskaras, and that is different from the, quote, psychological work of trying to get rid of our painful sanskaric patterns to create pleasantness. So it was more asking who has some insights into this dichotomy that we confuse as spiritual aspirants. So someone who might have spoken with some of the Mandali about this, or maybe Jeff knows about the distinction between these two aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, quote. And now the two aspects again.
So it's in the second paragraph, and it's talking about the dichotomy which we confuse, the dichotomy between being spiritual advancement is emancipation from the bondage of sanskaras. And they're saying this is in sharp contrast to the, quote, psychological work of trying to get rid of our painful sanskaric patterns in order to have a more pleasant existence and illusion, end quote. So how difference between spiritual advancement and emancipation from the bondage of sanskaras versus psychological work trying to get rid of painful sanskaric patterns in this particular life so that we can live a happier life.
Yeah.
In other words,
Okay.
instead of, I guess, going to see a psychologist to deal with uncomfortable patterns, dealing with how to become emancipated from the bondage of sanskaras. Well, he says disentangling from the faults. I guess that's part of it. But anyway, I was just wondering if any brilliant person out there, someone insightful, can offer some explanation.
We'll keep that on the table. We'll see. We got 5 hands, so.
Elizabeth, we asked the same question in slightly different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And Ken and Betty?
Hi. I just wanted to say that way back in the section on integrity and purpose, the very last line there talks about pursuing our beloved ideal becomes a necessity for us. And just very simply put, for me, union with Baba becomes the necessity. And it's a very pared down way of looking at things. But how do I know it's a necessity? Because when I'm drifting from that sense of union, I'm suffering, I'm in pain, I feel it. So I just wanted to connect those two.
Yeah.
Those two sections. Thank you.
Beautifully put, Betty, and you're very fortunate to feel that when you drift, that it doesn't feel right in your being. That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and Heidi.
Yeah, this was like, I was reading this for the first time. And what struck me the most was the idea of perhaps we're trying to unwittingly harmonize with our sanskaras. That really, that hit me right between the eyes. I definitely, do that. I guess we all kind of do. But, as a therapist, sometimes there's a dichotomy between helping folks harmonize with what's going on so they can live in the world and be productive, and at the same time release it and really face and confront what crap is going on. So it's interesting that this this hit me. So if I don't do that, we don't try to harmonize and we don't struggle and we don't fight against these painful sanskaras to get rid of them, then we have left is inviting the real. It's a couple sentences up. Inviting the real into our being, opening to the truth within, the Baba within. And then that was really special because we do that, but does it mean that if we open to the truth within as much as possible, it sort of removes the idea that we have to struggle to get rid of our sanskaras or even struggle to harmonize with whatever sanskaras are coming up? Just focus on Baba. And then Darwin says, I believe that as spiritual aspirants, our concentration should be on loving God and merging with him. And the predominant process we are engaged in is not self-realization, but complete self-effacement, which is both total annihilation and complete merging of the personality self into God. So I'm going to think about that, inviting the real within. Thank you, Baba.
And the real dissolves a lot of things right and left.
But we have to invite it, see?
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing to me because that's really an important thing to invite.
Beautiful, yeah.
Because I think there was a spiritual group I went to at one point in metaphysics, and the person teaching the group said, never turn down an invitation. And I'm like, that is really crazy. And the more I get into this, the more I realize what that invitation is. And this hit me again, this invitation, if we invite the real into our being, opening to the truth within, we invite Baba in.
Yeah.
He's going to be there if we invite him. I mean, there's no hesitation. And every time I've asked Baba to be there, or I say Baba's name, boom, he's right there. In one way or another, even in the midst of all of crazy stuff, you can feel Baba's presence because I asked him to be there. How can he show us that he loves us by being there when we invite him?
Yep.
He never says no. He's boom right there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. That is so true what you said. The invitation is so important. I'm inviting Baba. Okay, more hands.
Douglas?
Oh, well, I just following on Heidi, what you were saying, and I appreciate your wonderful heart. As a therapist also, that struck me. Much of the work we do in psychotherapy is about helping people feel accepting and balanced and a place of kindness for themselves. And yet that's sort of the end of it. It's a shortcoming of psychotherapy, I think, but it's important because we can go on from there to do the work of self-effacement, which is, Darwin expresses this in a few words that's just remarkable to me, which is both total annihilation and complete merging of the personality self into God. That's one to keep working with.
Yeah, Kitty used to say, the line from the Bible, not I, but Christ liveth in me. So you become a shell and he occupies your life. That's the beautiful merging, you might say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Laurice.
Hi everyone, Jai Baba. I think these paragraphs are so powerful. It's almost like it feels like this is the spiritual take on life. It's like life here. And the first part that really struck me is that we are in this addiction to the dream here. So much is held up to us about famous people and achievements, and you know, they've got this money and they've got this beauty and they've got this and that, and we should all strive for this, and we should all buy these cars, and we should buy this, and you know, do this and do that. And that is very addictive. And it seems like, you know, happiness, it says, fulfilling our desires, and then there's more desires, and it never stops. And then what I get is that this is not the only path, of course, and Baba didn't say this is not a religion. You can follow anything and come, you know, and work with him. And I think what I understand from this is the only way to really release my sanskaras truly is for me with Baba, but with, you know, it could be any spiritual path. That it is that going within. It could be Christ, it could be Buddha, it could be, you know, Muhammad, it could be, you know, it could be any path. That the avatar releases the sanskaras. So, you know, in terms of psychotherapy and well, in my experience with 12-step programs, I have the family sanskaras, intense family sanskaras of addiction, and I inherited them. And in the 12-step recovery, they say the whole purpose is for you to find a power greater than yourself. And some people call it God, and some people call it the group. And whether that's balancing the sanskaras, or maybe, you know, the path towards God is releasing those sanskaras, it allows people to recover from addiction. So that's one thing. And I think there's absolute value, but I see what he's saying is that, you know, we go to get this balance, but it's not the be all and end all. We think it's the be all and end all. Oh, I can, you know, I'm going to balance this stuff, and then I'm going to get more stuff, you know, like I'm going to feel better, and I'm going to do these other things to feel good. And there's real value in all of that, because sometimes people are so out of balance that they need, you know, groups and therapists and everything. But I think it takes people farther on their journey towards a spiritual path. Like was said, it's not the be all and end all. And then this thing about merging with God. About 6 months ago, I started actually getting on my knees because I had come to a place where things were pretty desperate for me in some area. And I got on my knees in the morning. I'd heard people doing this, and I thought, yeah, that's good for them, whatever. I don't do that. And I just would say, you know, and I'd look at Baba's picture and, you know, ask for help with the things I'm asking for help for. And this takes like a minute. And then I would say, and I turn my will and my life over to you today, Baba. And then about 2 months ago, I heard someone say, and this is where we learn from each other, right? Someone said that what she does is she says, Baba, my life is yours. So I started doing that. Baba, my life is yours. And that's qualitatively different than I give my life over to you. It's my life is yours. And then that just reminds me, and I have to watch I was like afraid to say this because I was afraid my ego would, you know, like do something like, oh, this is great, you know, oh, you're doing great, you know. And I have to remember, no, that's not why I'm saying this. But I was a nurse in Massachusetts, and in Massachusetts, nurses could practice massage. And they didn't have massage license for a while. So there was a holistic nursing practice act, and I worked in a facility where I was practicing massage. And then later I got my massage license when the state actually made the massage licenses. But I had like 50 hours of massage training, not thousands. But what I would do is at that time I was a Jesus lover, and I would say, Jesus, come, you be inside my body, inside my hands. You know, you be in me, and then also be surrounding me, like I'm inside you. And then let's do this massage. And I would pray the whole time I was massaging someone. And people would be like, that is the best massage I've ever had. And I wasn't my technique, that is for sure. But it's just like, that's one time in my life. And I think it prepared me to become a Baba lover, because I was listening, I was praying, I was praying for hours and hours on end. So that I was able to hear Baba when I first came to the center. But anyway, there are ways that we can merge just through for me, through consciously saying, I want to merge with you. And I really felt it just relieves me of my stuff. So I just wanted to share that. And hopefully my ego is not attached here. Thanks.
Yeah, no, you're completely safe. We got a few more hands here.
Robin?
I don't know if I can even say it anymore. It was a while ago, I was thinking about it, but I just feel like, I don't want to be attached to the story. I just want to go directly to God. And he says we can do that now, and I keep doing it and doing it and doing it, but the story keeps taking over. And when I'm pretty desperate and stuff, I guess what I really want is relief. So, I want to, I want relief. It's not like, so the desperation pushes me to the edge, which takes me back to wanting only God. But it's the story that pushes me to want God that much. So it feels like what he's saying here, it's like, even though it feels like I'm on the wrong track by wanting relief, because it's like feeding my sanskaras in a sense, it's about what I want. But it reminds me and pushes me to focus on God more. But I still feel it bothers me that I feel like I'm doing that in order to have more comfort rather than to really just want God accept everything as it is and just want God despite what's happening, and not take what's happening or the story so darn seriously. And I feel like I'm sort of stuck in that loop. But I also feel like I hope that it is moving me closer to God. That's all.
Yeah, very well described, explained, that dilemma.
Larry?
Yeah, the thought that came to my mind reading that was when I used to hang around the Vedanta Center in San Francisco. The Swami there used to use Vivekananda's example. He used to say, it's like a glass of water, a glass of dirty water. And he said, it looks horrible. He said, but the best thing you can do to get rid of all the dirt, all the sanskaras, is not to analyze the situation, which some people, find benefit in through psychological practices. You could send it, in other words, to a laboratory and have the whole thing analyzed. But he said, Vivekananda said, actually, the smartest thing to do with the dirty glass of water is to go get a pitcher of the cleanest, purest water that you can find, and just keep pouring it into the glass until all the dirt eventually rises to the top and goes out of the glass. And I thought that was very good. And it's a good symbol of Meher Baba. When we have these sanskaras, Darwin is telling us there's many ways to deal with them. But the most effective way is through Meher Baba's presence. So you go to purity, which is Meher Baba, and just by being in that presence, realize that what it's doing is slowly overflowing the glass so that you're being released from all of this stuff that you need to be released from. That's what came into my mind. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Larry. Excellent. We got one last hand here.
Thea, go ahead.
So I did, a period of severe depression that lasted decades, really. I had did a period of dialectical behavioral therapy, which has a component of skills, and one of them is, which is one of the last ones covered and turned out to be kind of the most revolutionary one for me, is radical acceptance. And it is this idea, it's kind of what I hear with this, of the self-effacement of, we sit here with a situation, we try to fix it, we try to solve it, we try to come up with tricks, we try to come up with all these things, but when it comes right down to it, it's a rubbish situation and doesn't feel very good. And like, it's just gonna be that way. And I don't like it, and I don't want it, and I don't enjoy it, and it's unpleasant and it hurts, but it's what it is. And I think that in a strange way, that became liberating, of like feeling okay to not be okay for a while, made it possible to get through it. And I think that can sometimes apply to situations where the effacement is happening.
Wonderful, Thea. Yeah, excellent. I remember I was going through a very rough time, and I went to Merwan hoping that he might be able to relieve me from this disturbing turbulence running through me. And, you know, I waited for how he would respond, and he said, endure, endure, endure. And that's what I had to do. I just had to endure it. There was no magic solution. There's sometimes no magic solution for certain things. All the insights you get somehow, it's like a flu. You can't pray yourself out of flu. You know, it's just going to have to run its course. And unfortunately, that's, some things have to run their course through us. And I think we'll save the harmonizing with your sanskaras, because we're running out of time here. But we'll keep that on. One thing that I mean, I got from Darwin about harmonizing, people harmonizing with their sanskaras, that impulse is, if you just take an ordinary person who's having a nice, pleasant life, and they're kind of harmonized with their sanskaras, but they have no longing for the divine. You know, so they've harmonized with their sanskaras, but it's not propelling them to search for the divine. And there's an impulse in us to seek mental comfort, a mental and physical comfort, and it may not propel us toward seeking something deeper. You kind of get on a nice, what do you call it? A nice strata, and you stay there. That's kind of one of the definitions he gave for harmonizing with your sanskaras. Well, I think let me mention before we start this moment of silence, anybody who wants to stay on, Stu will be happy to lead us on a brief and very powerful heart-centered meditation. And it's well worth it. And I mean, most of us feel Baba come in very strongly in this meditation. And so, but one hand there, Terry.
They can wait.
Okay. So let's, you ready for a few moments of silence? Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah. So, Terry, you had something you wanted to bring up?
I was thinking about my my experience therapeutically and my time with Baba, and they've certainly run during the same length of time. And I think I realized that a lot of my connection with God, with Baba, is me getting the clutter out of my brain and being able to open my heart and come to him. It's almost simple. It doesn't feel very difficult or exotic or anything like that. It feels like we get so hammered down with all, he spoke about the needs of children and grandchildren and, you know, family. And I think for me, therapy is a way for me to clear out that. The more I talk and get it out, the closer I get to Baba. And it just, it helps me get closer to him. And my therapist knows about Baba, but isn't a Baba lover necessarily. But there's something about clearing away the clutter that allows me to simply just be with him. And I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful.
All our therapists out there.
Yeah. We can you know, dispense with these therapists. We can go. No, I'm just joking. No, this is beautiful. All the sharing that comes right out of the depths of your experience with Baba and your heart.
Jeff, we raising our hand or just talking?
Yeah. If you have something, we're just hanging out here a little bit, and then after a while, we'll do the heart-centered meditation. Yeah.
And this was out of reference to Jeff's question, because if I'm reading it all, what he's asking about, and to me, I want to be somewhat careful with what I say, because when I'm reading a book, it's like I need cliff notes and a tutor. When it comes to harmonizing with Sanskaras in a language, I think sometimes, I look at a good old, I need to get grounded and like get away from the language and say, what do I need to do if it's like a bad habit, for instance? And one thing that comes to my mind is when I had a habit like being late to work, what happened is I needed to be 100% committed to doing what I needed to do. It's like 96%, 97, 98, 99 did not work. I needed to be 100% committed. And there's also a place, this may be another way to look at it. This is enlist in humanity. This is what people may look for going to confession or like confessing something or talking to a friend. It says the individual is almost two persons, the outer self and the inner self, and very often they do not know how to be friendly with one another. Once another person is found who can accept one without a qualm, it is infinitely easier to accept oneself. The sting of sin and wrongdoing are removed. The black curtain is drawn aside and one may walk out as one's own friend. Only then does it become clear how badly one had been crippled by inner doubt and indecision. From there, it is not as great a step as it might seem to be able to regard the oncoming lion with a smile. It's like when people would talk about what they get out of talking to somebody else, like what's the use? I look at that as being an outcome sometimes. It depends on who we talk to, which is very important. It's just sometimes I think we Bob lovers take these issues with a lot of laissez-faire nonchalantness. And it's great coming to some groups, but I think the reason why I'm trying to think, going to the right people, what do people go to some place like AA? Because they have a single-minded purpose what to do. That's why they get the job done of getting sober. They have a group of people that know how to do it. If they go to the right group, they know how to do it, and they have the support system in place. But also, if I think I know what Larry's doing, when it comes to health stuff, chronic, that is such a bear. It is really, really tough. And that is something that it could take people decades to find the right group of people in the right system or the right way in order to get grounded. And thinking about Bob all the time, I sometimes think it may take lifetimes to do that, but that's one thing I appreciated about Darwin Shaw is his talk about being like taking concrete steps, like single-minded steps at dissecting and analyzing a situation and taking very practical steps toward a solution. Now, with risking being offensive to people, I just think sometimes stripping the language away and taking practical steps and being 100% committed to eliminating a bad habit, if you would. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like Erich used to say in Mandalay Hall, spiritual progress is very, 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 very gradual. 4 varies. So you have to be, I mean, self-compassion is got to be a critical element in this life with Baba. Self-compassion. We have to kind of be gentle on ourselves because the mind can be so critical and slow us down and depress us.
And
self-compassion.
I think that's the value of therapy in the spiritual, whatever I take advantage of any modality that can help me with Baba guiding it all. I think it's all extraordinarily valuable. But I think when we were reading the line, every one of us, Darwin says, no matter what we think we're seeking or what our sanskaras are, we're impelled to seek. We are really seeking to merge with the luminous, all-pervading sea of God and to experience eternal abiding fulfillment, happiness of union with God. And I just had to laugh out loud. Everything that I think is good or bad is because really I think that, oh my gosh, I don't have that thing. I'm never going to merge with the luminous, all-pervading sea of God and experience abiding fulfillment. Oh my gosh. Or I have to have this thing so that I can have that. I can merge with the all luminous to radiant God. It's like that. It's such high stakes that my personality is put to everything. So talking to people through all those circumstances to help me remember that that is not necessary. For me to be able to experience the luminous, all-pervading sea of God and experience eternal abiding fulfillment and happiness, union with God, that's my natural state.
Yeah.
Like, I look at this a lot as like, they're different purposes, right? Like therapy helps you deal with all the stuff that's happened. It helps you deal with, it's helped me deal with trauma and my PTSD and various other things. Like what Bob is talking about is the process of merging with him, which he very upfront says takes thousands or millions of lifetimes. It's not like there's this Western perspective of like, do the thing, get the result, like it's a machine that you can game or come up with the best strategy, but we don't have the knowledge to do that. And the one who does is the avatar or one of the 5 masters, right? Who are around doing whatever they do in the late Advent. And so I think like to come at it with a like, oh, I'm gonna come to Baba and I'm gonna follow Baba and be like, oh, this is gonna be a panacea for the bad habits and the struggles and the this and the that, is sort of looking for the wrong thing in the wrong place. It's like, if anything, I've found my time with it, which I've spent most of I was born in this community, but I also left it for quite a while. But if anything, it puts me directly face to face with all of my failings and all of my struggles and like my, self-worth struggles and my, like it just brings all that up to the surface. So it's not like a, he can be a balm, right? Like a soothing balm. He also can be a bomb, like blow you up, right? Like it's not it's not the easy thing. I think we also get like too far over in the other hand of like worshiping our suffering like it's a badge of honor, because that's an ego shtick too. And so it's like, it's a very tricky thing of like, how do I stay in this place of connection and in this place of letting go? And the only thing that is really working with me is to maintaining my remembrance, maintain my practice of surrender, like actually giving it to Baba. Like, because it's very easy to say I gave it to Baba and then just keep right on hanging on to it and worrying it and obsessing about it and trying to solve it and fix it. Like actually giving whatever it is to him and actually surrendering, because those are the two parts. Because like if I give it to him and then I'm like, oh well, it's got to come out with this result, that's not actually me surrendering. That's me like saying, oh Baba, here's this problem, also give me that thing. So it doesn't work out for me usually. Generally speaking, I will get what I asked for, but in the way that is the most incredibly uncomfortable I can possibly imagine. So it's like I've been learning to not ask for the thing while I do it, but it's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And it's confusing because, like, you know, we have to be completely patient, and it's going to take forever. At page 16, he says, the soul is always free, always eternal. When Baba is saying, what Baba is saying is that we are timeless and we can experience the fact of our being spirit here and now. We don't have to wait until we drop the body. So he's saying that in this very life, maybe instead of one in zillions of years, one person gets enlightened, that we could all get that now. And Baba has said things like that. So I find that really confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, like Darwin has said, we put a lot of lifetimes behind us already. Many, many.
Yeah, Thea, I think you said a lot of good things there. And, you know, it's the very thing that, you know, I've heard Mani say it directly. We invite Baba in to our homes, our hotels, say, and we think, oh, it's just all going to be pleasant. And he starts working. He rolls up his sleeves and he starts cleaning. And we go, wait a minute, I don't want the dust. No, what's this dirt? That's not what I want. And she said that's his job. That's what he does. And he wants you to invite him in for that. And it reminds me of a wonderful story. Darwin was on the hill at Mehrabad, and he was kind of wrestling with something within. It was a big thing that he wasn't getting very far with. Jeff, I know you know the story. And Baba walked by him then, and as Baba walked by, he was pulling this thing in grace just out of Darwin. And Darwin's ego was still holding on to it, saying, no, wait a minute, that's part of me. And Darwin said, in spite of myself, in spite of the fact that I really wanted to get rid of this, unknowingly, I was still holding on to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of our weaknesses and shortcomings and mistakes and everything, if they didn't happen, we wouldn't be as compassionate and empathetic. I mean, they have a value. They're not just irritants. They help us to understand one another and be there for others. They can be a medium of exchange. So some of them are there because everything was going so fine, but we were kind of a little bit aloof. And sometimes we do something that brings us down to the level of everybody else, down to the street level. So they persist sometimes until if we get the empathy, sometimes a lot of these weaknesses go because we've got the lesson. Yeah. So if there aren't any more comments, we can if anybody wants to stick around for this heart-centered meditation. Unless there's like, what do you think, Stu? If
Ready to go.
okay,
Okay.
everybody should mute, right?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay, Jai Baba. So everybody just sit back, lay back wherever you are, and just relax. Just relax into this little journey together. Start breathing into your belly gently and fully, and we'll settle in, let the world disappear, and our minds quiet down even more. So breathe into your belly, and we'll keep up this breathing during the whole time. And now bring your attention to your heart and your heart space. And breathe in there. And notice what you might feel or see as you do this. And this is the home of our infinite connection with Meher Baba and his infinite love. This is the home within that we all have. And we can all turn to anytime. And there's an endless well of his love. And keep breathing into your heart and your heart space. And now pick somebody, let your heart guide you on this. As somebody or a group even who you would like to focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with. It could be somebody you've been in conflict with. It could be somebody you already love. It could be somebody you know is struggling. Just let your heart guide you, whoever comes up, that you would like to focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with. And get a good image of them. And keep breathing into your belly as you see them in the image you have. and see their heart space. And notice what you might see and feel in this awareness. And now start to picture Meher Baba's infinite love, just gently but endlessly pouring into their heart and their heart space. So I see this wonderful, warm, liquid, golden light. It's pouring in and it's soothing, healing, inspiring, forgiving, cleansing. It's an infinite gift. And keep breathing in as you see this infinite love just flow and flow into their heart. It could be doing its magic. And see the love flowing in without end and flowing through. And soothing every bit of their heart. And now see it start to flow into and through their entire being, every little corner. This wonderful, infinite, liquid love, divine love. And keep breathing into your belly as you see and you experience this endless love just flow into and through every bit of them, through their heart and their whole being. And let's stay here another moment. And now let's give thanks for the gift, the endless gift of Meher Baba's love, and the gift that we can focus in sharing his love like this. And know that you can return here again and again. And now gently start to bring your awareness back to your own heart and your heart space, and just settle in. Let your awareness just settle in. And breathe in as you notice what you might see and feel. And now start to see Meher Baba's infinite love flowing into your own heart and your own heart space, and see and feel that warm, liquid, healing, soothing, forgiving love just flowing without end. All the way into every little bit, every corner of your heart and your heart space. And touching you, inspiring you. And now see this endless, infinite love now overflowing from your heart and flowing right through. It's unstoppable. And now it's filling every bit of your being. And keep breathing in as you see and feel Baba's infinite love just flowing in you and through you, endlessly through your heart. And let's stay here for another moment. And now let's give thanks for Baba's infinite love and being able to focus on that love like this. And now gently start to bring your awareness back to where you're sitting or laying. And take a few moments to come back. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And if anybody would like to share from doing this, we'd love to hear from you.
I'll share.
Yes, Cindy.
As the last couple weeks have been just clearing, and lightening so much of my, I would say, mental burden about issues, human issues. And tonight, like what I was saying after the session formally ended, that we're all just seeking that union with that all-pervading source of love. And in that lightness and the realization of it, who came to me to send Baba's love to was, I could tell that, like, in the past, the people I'd been sending love to were also because I had a vested interest in them feeling good. And that would make, then I would be able to merge with the all-pervading source of love and bliss and all of that. And without that, just the freedom to send to who needs it, like who Baba and my higher self is seeing who needs it, not who I think needs it, so then I'll feel better. I could feel the difference in my ego attachments and then who popped up. And that feels freeing and joyful to me.
That's wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. And I just want to say I'd like to respond to all the chats, but I want to stay focused in being live in the room here. So know that I'd like to respond. Oh. Well, I could share something. You know, I go through this with you, but I'm also working on leading it. But times that I'm leaving you for a good few moments at a time in silence, I can kind of dip in there myself. And when the focus was on your hearts tonight, and I had Baba's image with me, I became aware of this wonderful light that was just pervading, and it was pervading and touching everybody on the call.
Yeah, there's a very large, expansive field of love that seems to encircle everyone.
Yeah.
So when in the time when we were thinking of somebody else, there were a couple of people who kind of came and went. Then the kitty that I'm watching, right, that's living in my room, she just got a spade, came and nestled right between my legs. I was laying on the bed and just started, like, didn't pet or anything, but just started purring and purring and purring and purring.
They know Thea.
Mm-hmm. He's a good kitty.
Mm-hmm. So Stu, when we started this, a friend came to my mind. She had to take her father to the hospital on Thanksgiving Day. That's where she was supposed to be going for Thanksgiving. So it was natural for her to come to mind. And I'm not sure what happened, but I think I missed the whole thing. I went someplace, and then the next thing I know, the next thing I knew, we were ready to end. And I just wondered, did you go to the golden light and all of that? I hope I didn't miss everything.
Did I go through it all? You're asking?
Yes, I'm thinking I missed I'm not sure what happened. So I was in a space I've never been. Maybe I fell asleep, but I mean, I was thinking of my friend, and the last thing I recall is trying to send, doing the sending of love to her. But I know you usually do the golden light and the well of water and all of that. And
He said that.
He did?
Yeah. We did the whole thing, but I think you were in it.
I must have been in it because
Yeah.
literally I remember thinking of my friend. The next thing I knew, people were coming out, and I thought, I must have missed the whole thing. How could I possibly have done that? So is that something that happens? I mean, it did, but What is that?
Well, it can happen. And I find like sometimes if I'm listening to another, somebody else's meditation, say, and it's deep and it's soothing, I can tend to fall asleep and go off, or just kind of end up in sort of an altered place. So it certainly can happen.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
We're glad you're back.
No, and it might be related to your relaxation response too. Like I have a strong relaxation response, usually a couple of acupuncture needles in me and I'm out, or it's been a while, but a good deep massage and I'll go out. And and it's a soothing place. It's a soothing place.
Well, it definitely was soothing. It felt like times when I've been like in Bao talks and I was listening to Bao, and then I will drift off if I'm listening to just at the center or, I mean, it doesn't happen with everybody, but with someone like Bao, it would happen. Anyway, I just thought, I was kind of shocked, but anyway, I was trying not to miss anything.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, but I also think that in going off while you were sending love to your friend, and her father, that that's a good place to be focused on when you're going off. So that was still in you,
Well, good, thanks.
Yeah.
See you, Cindy. Yeah.
Good night, dear people. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Good night.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Stu, what I've done, I've continued session after session, imagining sending this love to Baba. And over all these sessions, I'm and an eye is opening up within my heart to see Baba, but I can't. I get like what can I say? I get shots of him, but they're real, but they're not. I can't hold a single image. Like, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but it stays with me day after day after day. So I'm very happy with it. Even if I'm still can't quite get Baba in one piece, so to speak. It's a lovely place for my heart to be at, and this always just clarifies this a little more and more.
Oh, that's wonderful, Jeff. Yeah. Wonderful.
Looks like old Buck Busfield showed up too.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Good. We just had
very dark. Look at this.
We
Good
just
Lord.
had a nice meditation, a kind of a heart-centered meditation led by Stu Baker.
Oh, very nice. Am I interrupting?
Just have come out of that, and that
No,
was.
We're in sharing afterwards.
No.
So that's fine.
I had missed that.
Yeah.
We look like criminals who are trying to hide their identity here.
Yeah. There are a lot of them. They're just their nameplates, They're car keys.
That's right.
That's most of us.
No, that was beautiful. No, we just had a session of effort and grace, and then at 7 or a little bit after, anybody who wants to stay for a heart-centered meditation, then we continue. Yeah.
So my friend whose father is ill is in New Hampshire, and she actually met Bao. She's not a Baba lover, but she's one of my closest friends. And anyway.
Yeah.
Are there Baba lovers in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Steve Klein lives up there with his wife.
Uh-huh.
Even
Yeah.
Daphne, number
And others. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Wow, tonight seemed powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were yep, there's Darwin Shaw with Baba and Erich and Perigi.
Yeah.
That Alan is showing there. I don't know if that's in, that looks like the center.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe the lagoon cabin in the back.
Yeah, it's 1956
Uh-huh.
at the center.
Can you put it up again, Alan? And who is it? Baba and who else?
Darwin Shaw, Perigi, and Erich.
Oh.
Yeah. Meherji.
Yeah.
I found this little quote that's next to it that I really liked. And Bob was saying to these people who are asking about Baba groups, and he told them, after further discussion, I would like you all to belong to certain groups. Why? Because you can cooperate and tell others about me and share your thoughts. You learn much more than when you remain by yourself. When you listen, exchange thoughts, prayers, my presence is there. Where there are 5 collected together, Parameshwar is there, I am there. If you're talking of me, having love for me, then there I am. Is it all clear?
Beautiful. Read that
That's
once again.
That's interesting. He says about the Parameshwar that 5 need to be there. That's interesting.
Mm.
I wonder why 5.
With Jesus, it used to be just 2, but I think the quality has gone downhill a little bit. Takes 5 now.
The strength in numbers.
Now, Jesus said, if 1 or more are gathered in my name. And by the way, Jeff, you've
Inflation.
mentioned, pardon?
It's inflation.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of times about basically spiritual gifts like patience and generosity, etc. That there's actually an enumeration of those in Galatians. And I almost read it, but I didn't want to offend anybody. But it's a really nice passage that's almost per word what you've been saying several times recently.
Yeah. Do you have it, the divine qualities?
Yeah, I'll go get it.
That come directly to us from Baba. So what I say is that if we're not able to focus on Baba's presence, we can focus on these divine qualities, which come directly from Baba. If we follow them upstream, Baba will be there. You take gratitude and follow that upstream, there's Baba. You follow humor upstream, you reach Baba. So that we get benefit from those divine qualities.
Actually, I don't have the Bible one. I have the Galatians quote.
Yeah.
It's Galatians 5:22 through 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Yeah. I mean, there are, Baba has infinite number of attributes.
Yeah.
Which verse is that?
The Galatians 5, I think it's 21 through 23. I just put it away.
Thanks.
What, 22 through 23, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the ministers in my church says it after every sermon she preaches, and gets the whole congregation to say it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, in a little bit, I'm going to get some dinner, but anybody that wants to come back around, what time is it? About 10 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah.
So, Jeff, is there another meeting starting?
Well, we have a kind of a late night chat after the evening Archie.
But I mean, is there another meeting scheduled on the circle now?
No, I don't think so.
Jeff, is there a special quote where the one about humor is? Is that a discourse or one of the writings of Baba?
Well, I mean, Baba himself, I wish I could remember the quote, but something like, I lost everything. Baba says, I mean, I'm sure one of these, like Alan, could probably get the quote, but thank God I didn't lose my sense of humor. But humor is one of the divine qualities, definitely, and we all know what they are. And Baba said, like, the opposite of anger is patience. The opposite of selfishness is generosity. The opposite of desire, opposite of greed is generosity. So I mean, they're he's inviting us to sublimate those lower emotions into the divine qualities. Yeah.
Maybe it's in the discourse on attributes of the aspirant, and there are several chapters on that.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at that recently. Maybe I'll go look at that. Well, anyway, Che Bob, everybody. It was a great session. Okay.
Who is the iPhone there? I can't. Who are those? Who's there? I can't see. Let me see. Move your. Oh, hey, yeah, Anna and Gary. Yeah.
Yeah, you're muted.
You're
muted.
Anna, you're muted there. Yeah. Great. I hadn't seen them in 7 months. Hey, hey, before we end, is Ferris Day, are you there? We'll get Hafiz before. Ferris Day.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, can you end our little gathering here with one of your translations of Hafiz?
Okay.
These are very beautiful
Unmute
translations.
there.
And she speaks Farsi, so she's.
You could have heard me, right?
I didn't even know. Jeff saw me, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, you were both of you were in shadow.
Oh, because we didn't even know you guys could see us.
Oh yeah, we've been we know your whole house and everything. We got.
Well, you know what? We didn't even know. We didn't know that we would be able to talk because we had a lot to say, but we just shut our mouths and listened to you wise men.
Oh no, yeah. Feel free to join. Yeah.
Okay. We will next time. I know Douglas Anderson was on. I don't know if he's still on or not.
Yeah, he has.
He's left. He's left
He went back to Florida.
Oh.
No, California.
Yeah, okay. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Great to see everybody. And
yeah,
Pia, it's great to see.
Listen to Hafiz here before you go.
Okay.
Okay, Thursday.
All right, Jay Baba. Of course, this breeze has already been through this meeting multiple times and profusely, but here it goes. Oh, breeze, if you happen to go by the land of the friend, please bring back a gift of his fragrant tresses. I swear on him, I will sacrifice my very life in gratitude if you bring me a message from the friend. And if you are not given entry to his holy presence, bring me some dust for illuminating my eyes from his doorstep. I am the beggar and a hopeless supplicant of his union. Perhaps I shall see in my dream the face and beauty of the friend. My destitute heart shivers like the leaves of the willow tree from the yearning to behold the spruce-like form of the friend. Although the friend will not pay much to acquire me, I will not sell the whole world for a single hair of the friend. What of it if Hafez should be released from the grief of his heart, since pitiable Hafez is already a slave and a servant of the friend?
Beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Boy, that's amazing.
Read the
That
last.
was so beautiful.
Read the last two couplets again.
Although the friend will not pay much to acquire me, I will not sell the whole world for a single hair of the friend. What of it if Hafez should be released from the grief of his heart, since pitiable Hafez is already a slave and a servant of the friend?
Beautiful.
First, is this from the Divan or what?
These are from the Divan of Hafez, and I translate them.
It's beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful.
she's doing some beautiful translations, about 120 of them so far.
Is there any way, can you post these or send these? Because tonight's is just amazing.
Yeah, thank you. One is more beautiful than the next, and my intention, Stu, is to bring them together as maybe a book one of 5 books that are. I mean, there's about 560, close to 600 ghazals, and my goal is to get them all done. And so people are urging me to get going and release the first 100 or 101. In a first edition or first volume.
We may not be living by the time she gets to the latter. Read before we go. Read 22.
As long as Baba doesn't keep throwing me other balls to catch, you know, he's been relentless with new stuff that comes my way. I have to learn to say no. Is that covered in this class?
No, that's another session. Go give us 22.
Okay.
This is really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
All right. I think I have to order them by number to find it. List, sort by number.
And Baba's there listening. He's just come on from California there.
Hi, Baba. Oh, he's pretty. I love that photo. My goodness. Wow. Can you show the whole picture? Ah, yes. Lovely. He's ever new, you know, his face is just, no matter how many times you see the same picture, you see it differently every time. Don't you think?
Yeah.
All right, here comes number 22. It is from the Garden of Union with you that the Garden of Paradise gets its water. It is from the agony of separation from you that the fire of hell gets its heat. Since the tears of my eyes are a river flowing in the Garden of Eden, They see your beautiful eyes in dreams every night. Heaven and paradise both have taken shelter in your beauty and grace. Good things do come to those who are good. Spring has described your beauty with each season. Heaven has recited your loveliness in each station. The barbecued hearts of your lovers have earned and are yearning for the seasoning salt of your mouth and lips. This raw heart of mine burned but did not reach its desire. If it had reached its goal, it would not be bleeding still. Don't think that your lovers are all intoxicated around you. You have no clue about the condition of the corrupt ascetics. Having gone around your lip, it has become evident for me that the essence of wine manifests only when the sun shines upon the world. Don't let life be spent in vain, Hafez. Strive and discover the precious fruit of your existence. Meher Baba.
Yeah. Lovely.
I don't have to stay up till 10 o'clock, right, Jeff?
Yeah, but anytime you show up at 10 o'clock, you are more than, even if you stay for one Hafiz poem, guzzle, that's fine, and you can go to bed.
Honestly, Jeff, I think I need to start coming because I was doing translating when I was coming to those late nights. And since I stopped, I also stopped translating. It's been like almost 2 months.
Oh, well, do come.
Those are amazing. They're amazing.
Oh, they are. I mean, it's very hard to, I just haven't been able to understand Hafiz in the translations. And these are, they're comprehensible. And that because they're comprehensible, then the heart can feel the depths of them.
And you read them beautifully, Thursday also.
Thank you. We had such a great one yesterday too. It was just the audience, everybody there live and on Zoom. I don't know if you caught that, but yeah, it's going to be, I think it's on the YouTube already.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
No, you did beautifully.
Thank you.
Well,
Jai
I'm going
Baba.
to go and have some dinner.
Jai Baba.
And great to see all of you. And, you know,
Jai Baba.
thank you. And Buck, your day is
Jai
just
Baba.
beginning, right?
Yeah. Stuart, I just wanted to give you a little feedback. I didn't actually sit properly for the meditation because I'm often distracted. But I just wanted to say that while you were speaking, I did send love to all who are scared of COVID. And I just had an experience with someone today and really felt disappointed because they didn't show up to our house because of it. But I'm like, I really had to like reach out and feel the compassion, the fear that must have caused her to cancel. And that must be gripping the heart of so many people in the world.
Alan left.
So,
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
This is a few young people.
Paula? Yeah.
He's the hugger guy.
First,
Are we leaving now?
That's what that means, hanging out. They're leaving.
Should we leave?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me see where to leave.
who is the host here? Mikan, maybe.
I'm host now.
Yeah,
so-
Paula.
Well, we're
Somebody
gonna,
have a question?
Yeah.
It's me, Fresh Day. I just had the comment that it's a tricky thing because there's fear and then there's also being careful. I'm not afraid of cars, but I don't play in the road either. And to put it in, I have people who died from it. I have people who got it and recovered, but still can't run, can't go upstairs months later, who were very, very fit beforehand.
And literally 7 minutes ago, I had a text that my roommate might have it. So it's
wow.
a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't take it personally. It is a real thing and it is affecting a lot.
We've been very fortunate down here in Myrtle Beach. It's been so rare.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just given us all a false sense of security. But, you know, I do appreciate and respect people who are careful. But I think they also need to, you know, take strength in their hearts so they're not living in fear. You know, it's just a terrible, terrible thing. You know, you can't go to the store because you're afraid, or you can't see your friends. And I don't
There's
know.
living in fear and there's being careful. They're not necessarily the same thing.
We do have it in Myrtle Beach and Horry County for sure, for sure. But, you know,
Like
it's
that.
been,
Trust Prophet Muhammad, trust God, but tie your camel.
There you go.
I mean, it's
Hey, so,
entirely.
See all of you guys. And
okay, Jeff.
Here, Jeff.
stay
See you
safe.
later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks,
Good night,
Stu.
everybody.
Baba.
Good night.